York's very own muscle building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
What's up, guys? New York Muscle Radio, episode number 160, Getting a Pro Physique with Paul Revelia. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside my co-host, Big Pete Kacharian. And if you're a new listener, welcome to the best muscle building and fat burning fitness network podcast on the planet. The Big Pete, what's up, man? You got you on your ghetto hat today. Too bad our people can't see you.
Why is this my ghetto hat? Why can't it just be a hat?
You look like a little thug kid with that hat on.
A little thug kid? I don't know, man. I felt like wearing a hat today. Yeah, man. I actually just finished making some late night turkey and rice, which I'm going to get to after we finish this podcast, because I got to eat again, got to get the protein and got to get the calories in. And but I also have to put that aside because we got bigger business going on right now. We got to record this podcast. So that's what I got going on right now.
You mean you're hungry?
Not really. I'm not actually hungry.
Yeah, so don't bullshit everyone. See, this is what you do all the time.
No, when did I say I was hungry? I said I have to eat.
Because you act like you made it a sacrifice to record right now. Like your food's upstairs, you know, you were really hungry and you came down to record.
No. Well, I would have preferred to eat now instead of after the podcast, just to eat so that later when I'm done I could go to sleep. But, you know, this comes first, so. Yeah,
man, you got to be ready tomorrow morning, working out early, really early for you.
Nah, I'm gonna see you later in the day. You could go ahead and get that 7:30 a.m. lift in.
Yeah, you're definitely not coming tomorrow morning. Tomorrow we're heading into the city, into Manhattan, and we're meeting up with Brandon Carter again. We're gonna go to his offices in the city and see if we could pick his team's brain and see how we can help make New York Muscle Radio grow. So super excited for that. But that means that we got to get up extra early. Well, that means that Big Pete has to get up extra early. And we're going to train before we go. But this guy's already giving me excuses, guys.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm the type of person where I get my gym session in no matter what. It doesn't always happen early in the morning, but I always make sure to get it in, and that's always the most important thing. I'm not one of these people that just skips it. Oh, something came up, you know. If I have to push it back to later, I push it back, but I get it done.
You used to train early with me in the morning.
Yeah, for a while. We were doing like that, what were we training at, like 6:30, 7 a.m.?
Yeah.
It worked out pretty well, but my schedule was completely different back then. I have no problem getting up early, but I don't like to change my schedule too much. I'm a very habitual person. Like, I just like routine, you know? So, why is this guy laughing over here? If anybody could see him, he'd be laughing right now. Why are you laughing?
Nah, you're a crazy guy, man. We'll just leave it at that.
All right. Glad I entertain you with my craziness.
Yeah. So, you know, there's always a method behind your madness, and I know you too well not to know the reason behind things. So
there's always something. There's always a reason.
Yeah,
there's a reason.
It's always
for
about timing, right, big guy?
Of course, time and place for everything, right?
Yeah. So what else is going on, man? So you got some turkey up there, some rice.
Turkey, rice, and then I got to get some more fats into my diet because I'm at the height of my bulk right now. So, you know, it's got to that point where the food is just kind of a tool at this point. I don't really care about eating, but I got to get it in because I got to get the calories in. So I got plenty of fat left for the day, too. I'm going to probably have like 2 servings of peanut butter, probably at least 8 ounces of turkey, and I got to see how much carbs I have left for that rice, but I'm not even craving carbs. So it'll be one of those meals where it's just for function, not for taste.
It's funny, man. I started dieting. This is my 3rd week into dieting, and it's like everything just keeps popping up for me to have to go out to eat. And like, I don't mind going out to eat when I'm dieting. I really don't. But it's just like when it happens too frequently, because no matter what, whenever you go out to eat, no matter how 100% you try to track the macros for that meal, you could always guesstimate that it's going to be way more than that. And it just so happens that every single time I diet, it seems like things pop up that I have to go. So I had my friend's birthday yesterday, so I had to go out to eat for his birthday yesterday. Again, I always fit it in, but still. And then I got to go again on Saturday. And then I think I have something on Sunday, too. So it's like, oh, come on, man. I just can't catch a break.
It's always nice when you're dieting and you don't really have much going on. But you know what? For anybody who uses that as an excuse, you know, there's always that excuse, well, I have this coming up or I have this, so it's not a good time to start a diet. You know, when you have situations like that, just start the diet. Even if it's not ideal, you'll be better off starting the diet, building some momentum, getting it started. Even if you have little slip-ups here and there, or things are, you know, not as convenient and you have to eyeball it and you might not be 100% on it, you're definitely better off starting it right now instead of putting it off till the optimal time.
No, yeah, of course. I mean, and again, like I said, you always manage to make it work. You know, I'll always deduct. So, like yesterday, we went, and I definitely ended up going over, even though I didn't feel like it. You could kind of tell, you know, after a while of dieting, if you went over or didn't. And like at first, I was like, I don't think I did, and then I kind of was like, maybe I did. So I just ate 200 calories less today to try to like balance it out. So, but then, like I know, like I said, then Saturday I got to go somewhere. So I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, well, you just make it work the best that you can, and you know you pick the best options, and you go about your day and you plan. I mean, you're already considering what you got to do Saturday, so you're on top of it already.
I know, but you know what it is? You just wanna ride it out and just be perfect with everything. So it's definitely relatable when people say that, you know, like they become hermits when they diet, and I can totally understand that because you just, you know, you want results and you're just trying to. I mean, obviously it's not healthy to do that, and like I said, I don't mind going out to eat. But when it's so consecutive, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, come on, man. Cut me a break here.
Yeah. But then again, there's people that have to travel all the time and they have to eat out every weekend. They have to eat out for multiple times during the week. So, you know, there's really no excuse at the end of the day. There's ways to make it more convenient and people have it better than others. But you know what? If you got to get it done, you got to get it done. So that's, you know, an ideal situation, everyone would have the exact macros listed. Everyone would eat all their meals at home, but life doesn't work like that. I mean, if you could somehow formulate that lifestyle for yourself where you never have to go out anywhere and eat or never have to eat a meal outside of your home, then I don't know. I mean, I guess that works for you, but I can tell you that I bet most people would say they'd like to do that, but then if that was the case, they wouldn't want it.
Yeah, 'tis true. So what else, man?
So tomorrow, after we go to the city, if we don't get the workout done early in the morning, I'm actually going to train in the evening. And
so I guess that's your plan, huh?
Yeah. So that's
yeah. Thanks for letting me know, man. Appreciate it. Thank God I didn't wait for you tomorrow morning.
That's probably what's going to happen. And then tomorrow's Friday anyway, so I don't really have anything planned for the rest of the weekend. I'm probably after we get back, if I don't get my morning workout in, I'll get an evening workout in. And spend the rest of the weekend just working on some stuff for New York Muscle Radio and the supplements and everything we got going on. I want to catch up. I feel like we've still been, we get so much going on that we still have so much stuff that we could just keep working. You know, there's no time to just rest.
So this Friday, we're meeting up with Brandon Carter's people. Next Friday, I'm actually meeting up with Rory Alter we had her on the podcast. Every time we reference someone, I really should know what episode this was. But I really don't remember. So if you guys head back and look through the feed, you could see what number that was. But Rory was a great guest to have on, and I'm excited. We're going to train together, and we'll see. You know, it's just good to expand and hang out with people. So you never know what you're going to pick up. And Rory's obviously, she's a physical therapist. She's very smart. So I'm super excited for that. So that's next Friday. And like I said, just always trying to network and just trying to grow New York Muscle Radio. Today we got Paul Revelia on. You know, he's a big name in the industry, man. It's exciting to have him on and learn his story. Even though I know it, I met him in Ohio. Met him in on Lane's camp. A good guy, nice guy. So I'm excited to have him on and kind of dive deeper into his story.
Yeah, he was one of those guys early on in the bodybuilding.com forums for all the natural bodybuilders back then, which is such a small subgroup of people that were into bodybuilding. It was almost like if you were a competitive natural bodybuilder, everyone knew every other competitive natural bodybuilder. Yeah, that's definitely how small it was back then. And it's still relatively small today too, but there's just so many competitors today compared to back then.
Yep. All right, man, I want to move on to the trending fitness topic, and I wanted to bring it up, but I figured I'd just roll right into this, and not to cut off your story there, but I'm changing the subject here. So I came across this article from Dr. Jacob Hardner. I believe he's a physical therapist also, and he posted up this thing. There's a new muscle discovered. There's a new muscle in the quad. So the quad is not 4 muscles anymore. So I'll read the whole thing to you. We've discovered a new muscle. Traditional models of the quadricep have forever shown 4 muscles: the rectus femoris, the vastus lateralis, the vastus intermedialis, and the vastus medialis the VMO. I don't want to butcher the name, so I'm not going to say it. But in 2016, a study by Grobe, The researchers discovered and named the fifth muscle in the quadricep group the tensor of the vastus intermedius. The study dissected 26 cadavers, and in each one, there were 4 types depending on where the tendon fused. Independent type, V1, VL, and the common type. But there are also variations found within the 2 muscle bellies, as you can see above, and it's basically a picture. It's basically just showing where it is. It originates at the front of the greater truncator of the femur with the small muscle belly, and then extends a long tendon that joins into the fascia between the vastus intermedialis and the vastus lateralis before layering deep into the quad tendon. The function of the muscle is not yet known, and what we do know is that it tenses the distal tendon of the vastus intermedialis and makes the vastus intermedialis line of pull to be more towards the inner midline of the VMO. It's just that, you know what it is? All these names have the same. All the fucking quad muscles have the same name, so it's like, gibberish. I think it's amazing that our knowledge of the human body continues to grow and change. Blah blah blah. So I just think that's cool. There's a fifth muscle. I mean, granted, it's a very small muscle underneath other muscles, but still, it's just a cool thing that they're still finding out more stuff about the body.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea what you just said, but all I do know is that there is a fifth quad muscle, and I guess we can't call it quadricep anymore, right? There's got to be a new. We got to rename it now for something that means 5.
Fifth-icep.
Yeah, something like that. So
see, like, this is, if I was in charge of making the human body, everything would be easy. It'd be like an easy name. Like, who the hell comes up with these names?
I don't know.
Vastus intermedialis. Who came up with that?
I have no idea, but he was one complicated person, that's for sure.
Like the hamstrings is bicep femoris. Who on earth decided to say, I'm going to name this muscle bicep femoris? Like, where did that come from?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Yeah, so I saw that, and I was like, I got to talk about that, because that's kind of cool that there's a fifth muscle. And it's just, like I said, it's just basically in between the muscles of your quad, and it runs all the way up into your hip area all the way down. So this is just a cool little fact there.
Well, like next year you might see another study come out. It says, you know what, there's actually only 4 muscles in the quadricep. We were wrong.
Yeah, that was a lie.
So we might see that.
They dissected 26 guys to figure that out. So I don't think that muscle just it has to be there if it was in 26 different people.
I don't know. Maybe we're seeing some type of different. Yeah, some type of different species going on there now. Now we found a different human that has 5 quadriceps.
Hey, we used to have tails back in the day.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we're just evolving.
Can you imagine having a tail, man?
No. What would I do with my tail?
You would be so distracted with your tail. You can't focus to begin with. If you had a tail, you'd be done.
Who knows?
I'm done.
Who knows? I don't know.
All right, man, let's move on to the quote of the day. You have it, so let's play. You're not really talkative today, so I can't feed off any energy here. You're already falling asleep. See, look, he just plays.
That there's some sort of thing that you don't fucking know. Look, man, when I started in business, I didn't have fucking Google. I didn't have all these resources. I couldn't connect with people on the internet or follow people or see what other people were doing. I had books. I had people I knew personally, but that was it. You guys are so fucking equipped to succeed in today's society, and yet you still sit there with your hand under your fucking ass and look for somebody to guide you all the way. What else can somebody like me or somebody like Gary fucking do for you? Do you want me to come to your fucking house and hold your fucking hand and take you along the journey for you? Because I'm going to tell you, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm busy running my own shit.
So that's Andy Frisella. I believe he has a supplement company also, and he's I think he's a motivational. Is he considered a motivational speaker?
I believe so. I think he actually just wrote a book, but he wrote a children's book, and I think it's
I heard that.
Yeah. So I don't know I guess you could call him an author now too.
Well, yeah. So basically, I guess that. What was that on again? What was the topic?
Basically, it was the title of it was "You Have All the Tools for Success." So basically, it was a rant that he was having, saying that there's plenty of people, him including, that were very successful, and we didn't have all the resources that we have available today. But people are still sitting around complaining, not taking action, and just looking for somebody to guide them from point A to point Z on how to get the job done and how to be successful. So that was his rant. I have to agree with it, simply because of the fact that we have an overabundance of information on anything available now to you. You can, just like this podcast, you can learn how to build muscle, you can learn how to burn fat just listening to a podcast in an hour. If you listen to our library, it'll teach you everything you need to know to get in shape. Like you have nothing, you don't need anything else other than this, but you can go to 20 other podcasts, you can go to 20 other YouTube channels, you can go to 20 other websites and just get more and more information. So there's no shortage of information, but people don't take action on it. And people want results. People want to get leaner. They want to get bigger. They want to get stronger. They listen to our podcast. They might listen to 5 other podcasts too, but then they don't act on it. There's people that do, which is good, and I applaud them for that because they should be doing that if they're listening. But there's plenty of people that just sit there and listen and don't take action and don't get results.
Yeah, man, I just think that people get analysis by paralysis too. I mean, listen, it can be confusing, a lot of the things in this industry, and, you'll have one person saying this, another person saying that. So you have to really, find someone that you agree with what they say, and then just kind of emulate everything they say as far as so listen to their advice. Don't try to find out. I hate when people kind of fact check people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I guess there's a right and a wrong way to do that, but there's definitely a wrong way to do that where, if we say something, they'll fact check it with someone else. And then you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to be one of those people that's always looking for the right answer, but never does anything. You have all the tools here to apply it. If we say the arm program works and you'll gain an inch to your arm in 12 weeks, and if you don't try it, how do you know if it's going to do it? Instead of debunking the program and looking at it and saying, this is not going to work, blah, 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 why don't you try it for 12 weeks and see what happens? Like he says in the thing, when I started, I didn't have Google. When we started this, we didn't have Google. We literally didn't have this, So for us, we had to learn from trial and error. I mean, I know for me, I literally tried everything to get results.
And that's ultimately how you're going to become successful, is trying everything till something sticks. And you can not listen to anything. You can not get information from anybody, and you could just try everything. Eventually, something's going to stick, and that just comes from experience. The reason that you want to listen to somebody and you want to take advice from them is they'll shorten that learning curve. You won't have to make as many mistakes, and, they could kind of guide you through the process a lot faster. But ultimately, the only way you're going to get, success, the only way you're going to get what you're trying to get as far as your fitness goals or whatever it is that you're after is, you got to start experiencing it for yourself, and you got to start learning, and you got to start acting. And then eventually it'll come. Even if you start out completely wrong, you'll figure out, okay, this is wrong. Let me try to do it a different way. And then you'll come around to it.
And don't sit there with your hand up your ass like he says.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that? I was listening to him rant about that stuff, and
you had your hand up your ass while he was talking?
I couldn't help but think that he sounds a lot like Jonah Hill. You ever think he sounds like Jonah Hill? It sounded like Jonah Hill was giving a motivational speech.
I don't know. I don't hear it, man. I can't think of Jonah Hill's voice right now. Steve Madden.
Oh my god!
Every time I think of Jonah Hill, I think of that scene. Steve. I fucking love that movie. Every time I watch Wolf of Wall Street, it motivates me to start a business.
Yeah, well, it's a very motivational movie. What would you start? What other business would you start?
No, but it makes me want to start a crooked business.
yeah, I agree, man.
Steve Madden.
Very fit. Yeah.
Andy Frisella.
Holy shit, it does sound like.
So I gained weight for this movie War Dogs, and then I wanted to get in better shape, and so I called Channing Tatum, and I was like, hey, if I eat less and go to a trainer, will I get in good shape? And he's like, yeah, you dumb motherfucker.
That's actually good. Yeah, that's actually good advice too, by the way. People think like that.
He was better than Andy Frisella, man. Fuck Andy Frisella. He was way better. Jonah Hill, baby.
That was a good quote. If you eat less and you go work out with a trainer, will you lose weight? Yeah, you'll fucking lose weight.
Yeah, you dumb fuck.
Yeah.
But he does sound like Jonah Hill. That's so funny. He's a fucking great actor, that kid, man. He was in a lot of movies.
Great.
Do you remember what the hell is the name of the movie? Ask Me About My Wiener.
That was what was that?
I can't think of the name of that movie. Accepted.
Was that? Oh yes,
Accepted.
yes. That was one of his first movies.
Me about my wiener.
That was one of his first movies, right?
And then he chases the kid. Hey, ask me about my wiener. Fucking great movie, man. That was a great movie. All right, let's move on to the listener question of the day. Guys, if you have a question you'd like us to answer, you can submit it on our website, newyorkmuscleradio.com/listener question, or you can call/text your question in at 508-687-2534. So I got 2 questions today, and the first one's from Daria. She says, "Hi, guys. I'm sending this message all the way from San Francisco, California. It has taken me forever to find the fitness podcast that is super informative without all the fluff and science jargon. New York Muscle Radio is entertaining and very reliable. I listen to your podcast religiously, and I'm not even religious. Anyway, I have a diet and fitness related question. 1. I'm a 35-year-old female standing at 5'9", weighing 142 pounds with 14% body fat. My ultimate goal is to get super lean. Although 14% body fat is relatively low, I would like to be more shredded/cut. Based on my body fat testing, I currently burn 1,700 calories at rest. Listening to your podcast, I know that I should be in a deficit. If I want to lose more fat or get shredded, how much of a deficit is ideal? I'm currently averaging around a 150 to 300 calorie deficit. 2, my main form of fitness is CrossFit, which includes conditioning and strength training, deadlift, squatting, clean, snatching. But I also lift weights at your regular old gym, aka bro gymming. 1 to 2 times a week. I understand that cardio is not the most ideal for muscle gain/fat loss, but HIIT is acceptable. How is CrossFit and HIIT different? And does CrossFit affect my goal to shred/cut? CrossFit makes me strong, and I love how it makes me feel after a workout. But if I'm being honest, I want to look good too. What is the happy medium? Thanks, guys."
It's a good question. There's a lot of questions in there, but
looking forward to trying your caffeine and branched chain amino acids.
Well,
she purchased them, so
awesome.
she's going to be getting
she'll
them
love
very
both
soon.
of them.
Yes, of course. All right, so one thing before we even start this, she mentioned the hated word here, and that's CrossFit.
Yes.
Now, one thing that I want to point out to you, she says she's in San Francisco, California. California takes CrossFit very, very seriously. So when you hear CrossFit, it's not like what we have in New York. I'm sure there are some shit places in California, but it's on a different level than New York.
Okay.
There's a lot of shit places in New York.
Yeah.
So when she says CrossFit, she's probably actually doing
what
like
CrossFit's supposed to be.
Yeah, she probably has like good form with everything she does. The ones in New York, I mean, the ones that we know about, they just pop up just to make money, and they're only there because it's New York, you know?
Yeah. So she had a bunch of questions, but since we're talking about, this was the last question, but since we're talking about CrossFit, I guess we could just go with that one first too.
She basically wants to know how CrossFit and HIIT is different.
The main thing, I mean, CrossFit could be similar to HIIT in terms of that it's high intensity, especially followed with shorter duration rest in between, because you are doing stuff like full body exercises, full body conditioning workout, which is a form of high intensity cardio. But the main difference and why CrossFit is not necessarily HIIT is because HIIT itself is only considered HIIT if you're going at 100% intensity, and at 100% intensity, you can only go for maybe 15 or 20 seconds without having to rest in between and repeat. So if you're sprinting, if you're running as fast as you can, you're eventually going to slow down about 15 or 20 seconds into the sprint. You can't go 100% for longer than that. CrossFit, depending on what you're doing, a lot of times you're using submaximal weights and moving them very fast. You can do that, but it's not at the intensity where after 15 seconds you're going to have to rest. So you're not doing true HIIT at all. Even if you think you're not, even if it's not CrossFit and you think you're doing HIIT, you're not actually doing HIIT unless you're going hard enough where after 15 or 20 seconds you have to rest, recover for about 45 seconds to a minute max, and then repeat. That's where true HIIT gets its benefits from, and that's where it's going to separate itself from any form of cardio. So that's why I would say CrossFit is not HIIT, but that's not to say that CrossFit is not going to be effective at burning calories or a form of cardio. You know, I can think of plenty of better ways to train to build muscle, but as far as cardio, CrossFit, it has its place, but it's not HIIT, that's for sure.
Yeah, CrossFit now, for as far as weight training goes, the reason why CrossFit is not ideal when it comes to building muscles, because CrossFit is not really progressive, meaning that you're not challenging the lifts every time. Like I can't, how do I explain this?
Well, you're trying to do
with CrossFit, it's very random. This is the problem with CrossFit. It's very random. There's no progression. There's no programming involved in CrossFit. And that's what makes it so hard to build muscle on. If you went on a properly programmed, a periodized program, just a general one, it would still blow CrossFit away as far as that goes. Because CrossFit, the whole idea behind CrossFit is everything is supposed to be varied, and that's supposed to make you a more overall better athlete because you're ready for anything. The problem is muscle doesn't grow like that. And the whole thing with guys or whatever, anyone trying to shock their muscles into growth, you can't shock your muscles into growth. It's either it grows or it doesn't grow. And it's either you overload it or you don't. And with CrossFit, it's very hard to do that. Yes, the workouts are very challenging, but they're taxing in different ways. So, like, in other words, your body needs a reason to put muscle on. So let's say for argument's sake, you're squatting 225, whatever, for a couple of reps. You have to force a stimulus in order to grow. You can't just keep doing 225 for 5 one day and then 185 pounds for 20 reps the next day. You have to be able to progress over time doing that. You have to be able to do 225 for 5, 225 for 6, 225 for 10. That's how you make progress. With CrossFit, it's too random that you're not making any gains as far as that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the benefits you could get from CrossFit are more related to the cardio than for the muscle building. For anybody who wants to try CrossFit, it would be, not a bad idea if your goal was to work on your cardio a bit. But like you said, if your goal is building muscle, there's plenty of much more optimal ways to go about it. And cardio, for that matter, I'm going to argue that HIIT is better than CrossFit for that as well. But there's nothing wrong with doing CrossFit. It's just not the optimal way to build muscle or burn fat.
The one good thing about CrossFit for the average person is it is a good way to just get them moving. Yeah. And if you go to a good box or a good CrossFit, you'll have a good coach that'll teach you how to do these exercises correctly. Squatting, deadlifting, clean, snatches, they're very technical movements that are very, very hard to master. It's not something you could do easily. And the one thing that I hate about CrossFit is I have you do like all these high rep into, supersetting cleans with, deadlifts and all these just random stuff there's no way you can keep good form doing that. And that's the only problem that I don't like with it. But again, the idea behind CrossFit is very good and I would recommend it for the average person. But if you're really competitive and your form is not good, you can get very hurt doing CrossFit. All right, let's move on to the other question. So her other question was she's 35. She's 142 pounds. Her body fat's 14, which is really low for a woman. She basically wants to diet down and continue losing more body fat. So she wants to know if she'll lose more fat if her deficit is greater.
Mm-hmm. And I think she also asked how much of a deficit she should be in, ideally.
Yeah, I'm currently averaging around 150 to 300 calorie deficit. Okay. How much of a deficit is ideal? That's
a small deficit, but again, she's already lean, so for her it's going to be a little bit different than the average person. But for the average person, the deficit you should be in should be based on how much weight you want to lose on a weekly basis. So for the average person, a good goal is, between half a pound and a pound and a half a week, I'd say is a really good range. So a pound a week on average is a good goal. And to do that, if you put yourself in a 500 calorie deficit per day, out of the week, you're going to add up 3,500 calories, which is a pound of fat. So that's generally the place most people start, but you can go higher or lower depending on your goals, depending on how lean you are already. If somebody has plenty of fat to lose, throwing them in a 750 calorie deficit might work better. If they're already lean, like in your case, going with a little bit less, that'll work too. And, you're always better with starting with less, and if you're not losing weight, then just pull more calories and create a bigger deficit. So I think she's off to a great start. And my advice to her is don't change anything yet. Just keep checking your weight loss, and if you're not losing weight at that rate, then pull more calories out of it. But generally, 500 calories more or less is an average place to be in.
Yeah, I would say that where she is right now is actually good. The one thing that I'm going to tell you is it does take time, especially when you're that low body fat. It's not going to come off as fast as if you were 24% body fat. So I would say just take a little more time and try to be conservative with those with that calorie deficit. You don't want to be too much in it. Like we said, make those calorie jumps, take them away, I should say, as you get closer, to your goal. But definitely take some time. Don't rush it, because it's when you rush it that you end up losing muscle and you end up looking worse. So take your time. Don't be afraid of pulling the calories out, but take your time doing it. Keep doing what you're doing, because obviously it's working for you. 14% body fat. I would just say maybe when you do go to the gym and go to your bro gymming for the 1 to 2 times a week, get on a progressive program. Program in squats, deadlifts, other exercises like that, and just focus on being progressive with those movements in order to gain some muscle. That would be my other one. And good luck with the supplements. We know you're going to love some caffeine and some BCAAs. It's a great combo there. All right, let's move on to the second question. So the second question is from Andrew Bush. He says, hey, dudes, great podcast. Just wondering if you ever heard of anyone putting swimming as part of their cardio. It seems like people always run or cycle or maybe do kickboxing, but I've never heard of anyone adding swimming. It just seems to be the most complete cardio one could do. Is it just a timing thing? Does getting ready for the pool after a workout and then showering before and after you get out of the pool just too much to add to a workout? Anyway, personally, I like to try to add swimming to my workout when possible. Thanks.
That's a good question. And I had a friend when I was in high school and college who was a swimmer, and he was shredded year round. He was in great shape. He actually had a lot of muscle on him, too. He had more muscle than I did at that time. And that was his preferred form of cardio. Even when he wasn't swimming for swim, he would just exercise. And when he would exercise, he would do swimming as cardio. And there was a bunch of times where he said, listen, like screw doing like the traditional cardio you're doing, come swim with me. And swimming is great. The only problem I had is I'm actually not a great swimmer. And it's very technical.
The only problem you had is you get your hair messed up.
Your
hair gets messed up, then you got to re-gel it.
Swimming is a very technical form of cardio. So if you're a great swimmer and you can swim properly, then you can get all the benefits from cardio from swimming. But if you're not a great swimmer now, you're not going to be able to push yourself as hard as you would, let's say, running or using the elliptical when you have to focus on the correct stroking, breathing, all that stuff. So if you're not doing that correctly, it's going to take away from the cardio. But if you're willing to learn or if you already know how to swim well, I'd say, yeah, cardio, swimming is a great form of cardio because you're going to get your heart rate high no matter what. And you're doing so with, the resistance of the water, and it's less impact like if you were to do running or do any type of, outdoor cardio or anything like that. So I think it's a great form of cardio, but if you're not a great swimmer, you're not going to see the full benefits from it. That was my issue.
I actually read a study a while back that showed that swimming was actually burn the least amount of calories out of any form of cardio exercise you can do. So I just think that a lot of people, one, like Pete said, don't have the technical whereabouts to swim like that. Two, not many people have access to a pool. Three, it probably is a little bit time consuming to do. And, I don't know. Some people, I guess, are maybe grossed out by the pool at the gym. It could be that too. So, it's a lot less convenient as just hopping on a treadmill or elliptical or Stairmaster, And aside, like Pete said, I don't have a technical stroke. I probably look like I'm having a stroke in the water as I'm trying to swim.
You can't swim either?
I mean, I could save myself. I fell off a
that's
boat,
about as much as I can do.
Yeah. Like I said, I probably look like I'm having a stroke in the water as opposed to actually doing a stroke. All right, guys, we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back with Paul Revelia of Pro Physique.
Do you want to get the results you've always dreamed of? Do you want coaches that genuinely care, are professional, and get back to you in a timely manner? Do you want to be stronger, healthier, and look better naked? Then let me tell you, New York Muscle Radio is definitely your answer. Since working with them, I can hardly believe the results.
They coached me through a post-contest reverse diet and all the way through to an off-season strength program.
These two fitness geniuses have pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and in the process, I have been able to make big jumps on all of my major lifts.
In 14 weeks, I added 100 pounds to my powerlifting total and smashed my first meet.
Since working with them, I've added 55 pounds to my squat, 50 pounds to my deadlift, and 20 pounds to my bench press.
And in 12 weeks, I dropped over 10 pounds of body fat and added over 20 pounds to all my lifts.
I have never had as amazing of glutes as I have training with them. So I can say, no matter what your goals are, you're guaranteed to be stronger, healthier, and let's face it, better looking if Pete and Anthony are your coaches.
So if you are tuning in to listen and learn from the huge array of knowledge these two have, or if you want to hire them as your coaches, you will not be disappointed.
New York Muscle Radio is the best in the business.
You heard it from our New York Muscle Radio clients. Do you want to join our team and reach your fitness goals? Visit NewYorkMuscleRadio.com for all our coaching programs.
But I'll tell you what, when I'm done, my biceps are humongous. Humongous.
My name is Anthony Bevilacqua, and I'm the host of New York Muscle Radio podcast. My arms have been a weak point for years. When I started training, my arms measured 11 inches. Even after many years of hardcore training, nothing would get them to grow. With the help of my co-host, Big Pete, we set out on a mission to gain 1 solid inch to my arms in 12 weeks.
In the greatest experiment of all.
12 weeks later, this program finally helped me get 18-inch arms. The 12-week Arm Experiment, the ultimate arm growth program, ebook, the audio book, and the workout video. Pick up your copy now on NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
Hey, great coffee.
Doesn't it taste good as Fresh Perk?
Better.
Better than those girls make at the office?
Honey, their coffee can't hold a candle to yours.
Caffeine, the world's only instant coffee that's fortified with muscle-building protein. Visit buyproteincoffee.com now.
Damn.
Nice, Pete.
What?
I saw you checking out that girl's butt.
What? I was just checking out her yoga pants.
Pete.
I was thinking you'd look really good in yoga pants.
Uh-huh.
I was like trying to check out what brand it was. Like I was looking at her form on deadlifts. They were all messed up.
Do you think she has a nicer butt than me?
Well, it definitely doesn't look like a pancake.
Did you just call my butt a pancake?
Well, I mean...
What can I do?
You gotta try New York Muscle Radio's Glutylicious program.
Glutylicious?
Yeah, you'll finally get a celebrity booty, like all the other girls following the program.
Fine, I'll do it. But don't get jealous when other guys check out my glutylicious ass.
Glutylicious, your guide to getting a celebrity booty in 12 weeks. Now available exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
What's up, New York Muscle Radio listeners? It's your co-host, Big Pete Kacharian, and I'm glad you're all listening. Put down that tilapia and asparagus. Learn how to get bigger, stronger, and leaner eating what you want. Pick up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. But for now, let's get to the show.
All right, guys, we're back. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 160. So excited today. We have on a special guest, Paul Revelia from Physique. Paul is someone I met on bodybuilding.com boards years ago, and I've watched Paul just get better with age, both in the gym and in business. Paul is one of the top online coaches and works with hundreds of people. Paul, it's an honor to have you on the show, man. Welcome to the New York Muscle Radio podcast.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It is quite the honor to be invited, so thank you.
Yeah, man. Pete, you there? What's going on? You're just quiet.
Yeah, I'm here. I actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I was going to say I didn't get a chance to talk too much to Paul before we started recording, but yeah, he was one of those guys back on the forums, on the bodybuilding.com forums that we talk about every once in a while, and he's one of the few people that we did see way before his business and presence on the internet progressed, and it's nice to see how far he's come, and just to see some of the guys from back in the day that really put in the hard work and, you know, spreading the good knowledge today. So it's good to have him on here for this podcast.
Thanks, Pete.
You remember those bodybuilding.com forum days, man?
I'll be honest, like that was probably one of the greatest periods of, I don't know, just growth of personal growth. And, you know, for those that aren't aware, the message boards were basically the equivalent of like Facebook groups back in the day, right? Like we would log into bodybuilding.com. We had our little account, and the relationships that I built back then, because for most of us, you know, there's a couple guys in the gym that you might get along with, but it was always hard to find that group that you could actually connect with. And what the internet did and these message boards did was it put us in touch, even though we were from different parts of the world, different walks of life, different ages, people that would have never met. Ended up, you know, some of my best friends and the people that I do the most business with and spend time with are from those message boards. And it was never an intention for me to build a business off of or even be a coach. It was purely, I enjoyed watching on the forums when people would post their contest prep. I would read through those threads like they were years old, and you could see the people losing body fat and how they changed. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that in case somebody wants to see my journey and it might help someone. And I love those message boards, and I miss them dearly. I always told myself I would always post there, but whenever I go back there, they're just not the same anymore.
Yeah, it's not. And nothing nowadays comes even close to that. Like you mentioned, Facebook groups as being, I guess, what it's equivalent to now, and it's not the same thing at all.
No, it's not the same because Facebook groups are usually either private or they're managed by somebody. It seemed like at that time, I think bodybuilder.com had the 5th largest message board on the entire internet, and so there was just so many people, and you could get granular. Like, we were in the contest prep section. That was where we kind of hung out, and so we had contest prep journals. That's where Lane Norton got his start. Dr. Joe would post, Dominic D'Agostino, Ben Esgro, Alberto Nunez, like Rob Moran, Tommy Joe. I could name 100 people that people are familiar with in the fitness industry now, and we would all kind of connect in there. And, it was just a fantastic, place to be.
Yeah, we've had about all of those guys on the podcast so far. So, yeah, I can tell
you should. Yeah.
Definitely. A lot of inspiration came from those days. That's just so funny. So, Paul, for those of you who may not know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of talk about your beginnings to kind of where you are now, how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah, I'm 41, so I've been around weights in the gym for, more than half my life. I started lifting weights when I was about 15, 16 years old. But I guess I first started out, I played baseball growing up, played in college on scholarship, and I always had this desire to put on muscle. So when I wasn't at practice, I would be in the gym, and when baseball season was over, I would go lift weights, and I would do a bench program or a squat program, or just something to put on muscle for the summer. And so I always had this itch to be involved in bodybuilding. And then when I got done playing baseball, it kind of filled that void for me. Instead of 4 hours a day at practice, now I was going to the gym more consistently. And after years of reading the magazines, because there was no internet, because I'm an old guy, and kind of spinning my wheels and getting frustrated, I found bodybuilding.com, and I found a video series called Life of a Natural Pro. And I thought, well, I can do that. I can compete as a natural bodybuilder. And so I signed up for my first show. Lane was my first coach. I documented my journey, and I just kind of started building friendships and a following through those message boards that we just talked about. And one thing led to another. Lane graduated, moved to Florida, where I lived at the time. We started hanging out. I ended up earning a pro card in my second competition season. And Lane and I just became very close and very tight. And as his as his popularity grew, he kind of dragged me along, and he started, inviting me to go to his camps and be a part of his seminars and attending the expos with him. And he just kept bugging me to coach, and I was never really interested. I loved my career. And so one day he came to me with a story of a kid who had paid a coach upfront cash, and the coach basically gave him a cookie cutter plan, and the kid was very upset, asked for his money back, and the coach said, no, you're not getting your money back, and you're fired, and I'm never going to help you with anything, and you're going to be a terrible, bodybuilder, and this and that. And the kid was really upset, and Lane said, listen, I can't help this person. I don't have enough time. Would you just help him, out of the kindness? And I thought, yeah, that'd be great, because there's no pressure on me at that point. This kid was about to be coachless. And lo and behold, Josh Dudek was his name, became my first client, coached him. He did some teen and novice bodybuilding shows. I think he won his class at a couple shows. And at the end of it all, his mom came up to me and was like, I just want to say thank you for all you've done for my son. And it was the first moment where I thought, holy crap, I like this. That was cool. And my wife suggested that we start a business, that I start a coaching business. And obviously at that time, Lane was probably the most well-known nutrition coach in the world. I mean, he told me he was getting something like 50 client requests a day. And so he obviously couldn't handle that workload. And so he started gradually, sending clients over to me. And this was still back when internet coaching was not the easiest sell, right? People were like, well, how are you going to work with me on the internet? I think I was fortunate in that my early beginnings were, my career was in IT. So I was sitting in front of a computer for 10 hours a day, regardless, right? So I was very good at getting back to people quickly, very hands-on with my clients. and I was not afraid of technology, right? So I was using all the tools at my disposal to be an online coach. And it just, one thing, one client led to 2, led to 8, and I started becoming known as a coach that you could rely on. I started having success. I've had clients win natural pro cards. I have BB pro cards. I've had clients lose hundreds of pounds. I've had the full spectrum. Now I'm at the point where I'm actually working on building my own personal brand. You probably noticed I've picked up a lot more frequency with like uploading to Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. And, I think it's taken me a few years to build the confidence. I went back to school, got a master's degree in business administration. I'm back in school studying, exercise science and nutrition. And so it's just taken me a while to get that confidence, that Lane got through his education and experience. And that's where I am now. I'm a full-time coach. It's all I do. I literally spend all day working with my family or in the gym. That's pretty much it. I'm a pretty boring guy. But it's completely my passion. I love every second of my day, so if you're not familiar with me, that's not a big deal because I'm not someone that's well known. But if you are, it's probably through either seeing me compete as a natural bodybuilder, being associated with Lane, or kind of the personal following that I'm trying to grow at this point, kind of be my own entity in this fitness world.
Yeah, that's a really cool story that you told early on with the kid who competed, and I didn't know that story. I didn't happen to hear that story when we met at Lane's camp this year. We spoke more about your background in IT, so that was just an interesting story, man. Thank you for sharing that, and it's very kind of you to be able to go out and reach out and do that for people, and it just shows when you're a good person to other people, it always comes back to you tenfold. So I tip my hat to you on that. It's a great story, and I think as a coach, we've all been there at that point, and it's always nice when you get that kind of return when you really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, the hesitation to coach was always like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the skill. And Lane would always encourage me because he's like, you ask the right questions. You generally care about people. And so I think he knew early on that I would be a good, potentially a good coach, as long as my intentions were true. I love the whole process of building muscle, shedding fat, getting stronger. Like, it's something that even if I wasn't getting paid to do it as a coach, I would be doing it in some capacity every day, reading books, reading magazines, looking things up on the internet, watching YouTube videos. I mean, it took me years to realize what my true passion was. I mean, I could have probably realized it in high school, but at the time, baseball was my path. I was going to be a professional baseball player. That was my thing. And I never really paid attention to what my true passion was, because in my mind, what my true passion was back then was like a hobby that was going nowhere. It was like I was wasting my time, but I just did it because I loved it. And so to get to a place where I'm at now, where my passion happens to be the thing I get to do every day and I get paid to do it, it's very gratifying. It just took me a long time to get here, but yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's a great point too that you mentioned, that a good quality that I'd say with a coach is that you generally have to want to help people. And I think now with the fitness industry just growing so fast, we see so many coaches popping up now that they're doing it just to make money. And obviously it is a business, but if you want to be successful, genuinely wanting to help people is definitely a requirement. What are you seeing now? Because obviously you're involved with this so much. I'm sure you see and hear so many stories with good coaches and bad coaches. What are you seeing now mostly with new coaches popping up in the industry? Are you seeing a lot of them that just are really in it just to make a quick buck, that don't really care as much about the client as they do making money? What are you seeing?
I don't know that I see the people that are just starting out, because I'll be honest, I think the consumer now is so well educated and is doing their research that, the people that are going to be successful coaches are going to have to stick it out for a year or 2 or 3 years with people really scrutinizing them. Like, when clients come to me, I still have people that are like, can you show me your results? Can you, I've heard of you, but why should I work with you? And, I used to really put a lot of effort into like making sure people understood why I was going to be a good coach. At this stage, I still have to say, well, okay, what's your goal? Oh, you want to win a pro card. Well, here's a couple clients last year that won pro cards, right? Or, have you ever worked with a 50-year-old female? And so I think the real issue now is the consumer is very educated. They know what they want. And so to be a successful coach, you're going to have quite a few things going for you. And a lot of that's going to be your interpersonal skills, the experience that you have, your ability to prove yourself. And I think, I got the benefit of coming up under Lane. And if Lane said, go work with Paul, people didn't even question who I was. They just said, here's my money. How do we start? And I think the good thing was that I ended up becoming a very good, confident coach. And so those clients told all their friends. And that's how I've gotten to become a full-time coach. Coaching today, I mean, I have to be honest, for the guy that goes and wins his men's physique show and then says, oh, I'm accepting clients, I got to believe there's not a lot of people beating down that person's door. You've got to really put in the effort. Even when I see people with 1 million followers on Instagram and they say, oh, now I'm doing online coaching. I mean, from my perspective, if I saw that, I'd be like, oh, that's convenient. Now you're a coach, but how much of your life is actually coaching? So if you want to be a coach, you have to prove to people that you're a coach. Now, when it comes to bad coaching, there's still a ton of that. And here's why. Because I can tell you from my experience, what's very difficult for me is, when I first started out coaching and I was getting, 1 or 2 client requests a week and, massaging them and saying, yeah, oh, you want to work with me? Good. That's one thing. When you start to get 10 client requests a day and you literally have to turn down 95% of the people, I see how those teams get 1,000 clients because they just go, well, it's money. Just say yes and we'll figure it out on the back end. Right. Luckily I was brought up under Lane, whose, ethics are unbreakable. And I've been around coaches and, like you said before, my goal is not money. My goal is to help people. And I'm not going to help people if I have 1,000 clients. I'm just going to be clicking and sending one-word replies. And, that's not how I operate. I send full answer replies. I sit down and work at my desk every day and make sure that my client feels like they're my only client, right? And so that's where I think bad coaching comes into is the teams, the groups that get 1,000 clients because they've had some success and they just pile on and they kind of lose that interaction, that personal interaction. The psychology of the athlete is ultimately the most important aspect. And, I end up dealing with a lot of the clients that have gone through the ringer with a team, with a cookie cutter plan, fucked up metabolism, 2-3 years spent doing hours of cardio, that type of thing. Coaching now, I think it's getting tougher. I think with, the internet, information travels quickly. So if you're not good at what you do, people are going to know.
So you mean if I have a 6-pack and a pro card, I can't be a coach?
You can try. It would be an interesting sociological experiment to me to take someone who's very pretty with a great ab 6-pack shot, put it on Instagram, and put up, contact me today for coaching. How many actual, maybe I'm naive in that respect, and I just expect more of the people because I'm sure there's a lot of naivete still out there. But I just feel like the coaches that I know, all the good ones, they're packed. They're chock full of clients. And I just think that comes down to their results and, the feedback that they get and the buy-in that they get from the people that follow them on social media or are friends with their clients, things like that. It's just it's a good question. Unfortunately, it's not one I can really answer because I don't know the truth. Remember, I don't know, you guys watched that whole Joey Swole, I think that was his name, or was it him, or who was the guy that, Devin Physique?
Yes.
As that thing kind of unfolded and people are like, oh, you mean to tell me the coach that I hired that's never actually working on a computer and had 500 clients wasn't actually my coach, it was some girl on the internet? I think that was interesting to me because that guy was reportedly making, $100,000 a month coaching?
Yeah, it was some type of ridiculous number. Yeah, and to me, I found that interesting that people actually believed that he was the one sending out the coaching plans. Yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah, because I didn't follow him, but I was interested in the story. I went and looked at his pictures. If you look at him, every 5 seconds he's like driving a car or flexing, or I never got the feeling like, oh, he's actually sitting on his computer designing programs, going to conferences, learning about nutrition, it just didn't seem like those were his passions. It seemed like he was more about the flashier side.
Yeah. Well, Paul, with
But
every
it worked.
success,
So
well, did it? It didn't. It crumbled in his face, so it didn't really work.
crumbled
Right?
in his face. I think more because he was an asshole and he didn't pay that girl. And but he obviously made whatever $100,000 a month for a period of time. So I mean, he was getting the clients. But yeah, I mean, ultimately his reputation. I assume it's ruined. I don't really know much about him, but who knows? But you only get one name, and you got to take care of it.
100%. So with every success story, there's always trials and tribulations. There's always something that comes up or some bad thing. And this is the thing is that, people listening to this are like, wow, well, Paul worked hard and he got to where he is. But no one hears those stories. You know what I'm talking about, the times when it gets rough and you want to quit. Let's talk about some of that stuff because that's what I'm interested in hearing. And that's what makes the success is going through those trials and tribulations. So what were some of the biggest pitfalls that you had on your journey to where you are now? I mean, obviously you're not done. And you're not at the end point. I don't think we ever get to the end point, but what were some of the trials and tribulations along the way?
So here's the biggest part for me. So I started working, at least part-time when I was maybe 15 years old, right? I would spend the summers doing construction. I would, I had a car wash job when I was in college, and I would work at a smoothie shop. I always worked. I always went to work. I always got paid. And, when I got out of college, I got a bartending job, and then I got into IT, there was never a day in my life where I didn't have a job. The really difficult part for me was the idea that I was running my own business, right? Because at the time, I had a nice salary. I went to work 5 days a week. I wore nice clothes. I drove a nice car. I had a nice kind of thing. I was happy. And then when the coaching thing started to pick up, it was really challenging for me. It was like, okay, what do I do here? Because I liked my career, but I loved coaching. But, it's such a new field. Like, it's common today to hear about people being online coaches. But 5 years ago, when I became a full-time coach, it wasn't such a thing. Like, it was like 4 people. And one of them was Lane Norton. One of them was Dr. Joe. There wasn't a whole lot of people that were full-time coaches. And so the difficult part for me was getting to the place where I could go, you know what, I'm going to take a leap of faith, step out of my career and focus on my online business where people pay me through PayPal. Like it didn't seem sustainable to me, right? It seemed like every month was going to be the last good month. And I think that kind of pessimism is just from, growing up prior to the internet. I'm sure kids now are in high school thinking, I'm never getting a job. I'm just going to work on the internet. That's probably a thing. But to me, that was the absolute scariest thing. Running your own business is, I get to coach people, but that's not the only thing I have to do on a day-to-day basis. Answering emails, designing programs, looking at nutrition, that stuff is just a portion of my day because ultimately I'm responsible for every single thing. I have employees now. I have taxes that are due. I have bills that are due. I have to buy equipment for my gym. There's so much involved in owning your own business that it's just very scary, and it's very, you have to have a lot of faith. And yeah, I think that would be the hardest part for me. And then, when I started out, maybe I had some clients that were not happy, like, oh, I'm not getting the results I want, and you can kind of lose confidence that way. But I think I had a lot more success than I had failure early on. So I had the confidence to keep going. But I'll be honest, like since I started, it's been kind of an upward trajectory, right? There hasn't been a lot of self-doubt since then. I've just been blessed to be rewarded by all the work that I've put in. And so I'm surrounded by amazing people. I have great friends, great family. My wife is a huge support. And, the people that work with and around me are huge support. And, at this point, my clients are a huge support. They're basically like my family. So, yeah, I think the hardest part for me would just be that transition of being a corporate career guy to not collecting a check anymore. And I'm 100% responsible for it myself.
Yeah, that's a good story. I've owned my own business now for around 4 years, and there's always ups and downs. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times that, you kind of go to bed at night and you just think like you said, all right, this is a good month. I wonder what's going to happen next month. Or you have one really good month and the next month is like really bad. This is just what comes with owning a business. So that's why I wanted to bring that up, because not many people, they think, oh, I'm an online coach now, so I'm just making money sitting on my computer. And it's not like that at all. There's a lot that goes into it. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes us successful, is getting over those big hurdles. Now, what about as far as like your physique goes? So you have a great physique. Like you mentioned, you're 41 years old. You look great. What have you ever had any major setbacks, injuries in the gym, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of injuries over the years. Luckily, I've had no like tears, nothing debilitating where I had to have surgery or anything like that. But a few years ago when I got into powerlifting, because Lane was my training partner at the time and he's squatting, 600 pounds. I'm like, well, I better start fucking squatting. So I got into some pretty high frequency squatting, and, I'm a taller, lankier guy, and I ended up getting quite a few like knee tendonitis, some hip tendonitis, or, shoulder. I got a lot of aches and pains from the real high frequency, high intensity training that comes with powerlifting. And the hip got so bad at one point I had to stop training lower body for 6 months completely, which looking back, it seems like, oh, that wasn't so bad. But at the time, as someone who's a competitive bodybuilder, when you're told you can't train lower body for 6 months, you basically I was like dead. I thought, no, I'll never compete again. But, I think the difficulty with overcoming those things, it also creates some confidence, because, yeah, you come back better than ever, and you learn that there are really no setbacks. There's just obstacles to getting better, right? So it's only a setback if you give up and quit and let it beat you. So as far as physique goes, I've kind of stepped away from the high volume, high intensity squatting and deadlifting and stuff like that. I use it more as a tool for hypertrophy. I've realized I'm not going to be a high level power lifter. So I've given myself more back to the bodybuilding style, still using some of the lessons I've learned. I still enjoy lifting heavy, but I'm just not training with that insane volume, frequency, and intensity that is required to become a high level power lifter, and I think going through that made me a better athlete. But yeah, I mean, that would probably be the biggest setback, was that hip injury, and the knee tendonitis was real bad for about a year. I mean, I couldn't even do leg extensions for a period of time. So, but all that is gone, and I feel great right now. And every time I train, I'm just loving the gym right now.
Pete, you would be so excited if someone told you, Pete, you can't do legs for a month.
You know what's funny? As I'm listening to his story, I'm thinking it's very similar to mine. Like, he's talking about that he was trying to keep up with Lane and his 600-pound squats, and it's pretty much the same situation. Anthony's my training partner, and, he's chasing that 600-pound squat right now, doing the high-frequency squatting and deadlifting, and I always tell him my body just doesn't hang with his as far as that heavy frequency with the heavy squats and deadlifts, and I end up getting those nagging injuries. So it's like I'm listening to the same story that I have of myself.
Yeah, Lane's quite a talented individual. For those that haven't ever met him in person or seen him in person, he's immensely dense. Like, his muscle is very dense. He walks around at 210, 215 at 5'10", 5'11". I mean, he is just a thick fucking guy, and he was built to put on muscle. Like, his body is just, it might not be the prettiest physique, but he is really, really dense. And so I think his body just holds up to the rigors of powerlifting very well. I mean, obviously he got to be the second best 93 kilo powerlifter in the world for a year. He's had some setbacks since then, but yeah, it can be tough when you hold yourself to a standard like that. And, Anthony, if you're getting close to a 600-pound squat, that's obviously ridiculous. So yeah, like, it's inspiring, but it can also be detrimental based on, how it goes. Now, when I train with Lane, I use mostly his intensity as my motivation, right? Not his 740-pound deadlift. I'm happy with my 500-pound deadlift, but my intensity is what matters, and my focus and my ability to train high quality and use good technique and stuff like that, which are all things Lane's learned over the years. So, yeah, I still get value out of it, but it's a different value.
Yeah, we had Lane on this podcast not too long ago, actually. So since we keep mentioning his name, what's like a good Lane Norton story? I mean, you guys are best friends. That's kind of like me and Pete. You know, we're best friends. We work out together every day. So I'm sure you have funny, hilarious stories that no one ever sees that goes without the camera being seen. Because I know I laugh on a daily basis with my co-host. So you got to have one good Lane Norton, Paul Revelia story that you could tell us on the podcast. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but I think you could handle it.
Yeah, believe me, I probably have 50 that that would make you laugh. But the one that just popped into my head was last year we went to Australia for the Arnold Classic, right? So we went there for the Arnold, but we also spent 3 weeks touring around doing seminars. We went to Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and the last week we were there. Now, mind you, after 3 weeks of touring, it was me, Lane, Eric Helms, and Lauren Conlon. So I'm sure you're familiar with all those people.
Yeah.
So the last week we were there, we were in Sydney, and I think we had finished up like the last full camp, and we only had a couple seminars left. And we were like, let's go out, get some dinner, have some drinks, blow off some steam. So this is where good stories always start, right? A couple drinks. And then, so we were in Sydney, and one of the people we were with, who was a host, said, hey, there's this like area in downtown Sydney where there's like some bars on the river and some nightclubs. Well, let's go there. So we ended up finding a really cool karaoke bar, having a few more drinks. Well, there's some weird rule in Australia. It's called a lockout rule, right? So the bars stay open till real late, like 4 a.m. But you can't go into a bar after midnight. So what they do, they basically, I guess they keep the riffraff out, because if you leave a bar after midnight, you just have to go home. You can't go bar hopping, right? So we ended up leaving this karaoke place shortly after midnight, ready to head back home. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Eric Helms' dance skills, but he is quite the, and I'm not joking at all, he is legitimately like one of those battle dancers. So he was telling us these stories, and we're like, we're going to go find a place to like dance, because I got to see this, right? So we found a bar, and we were going to go to this bar, and it was like an outside bar in the harbor in Sydney, just beautiful, right? So we get to the place, and we're like, hey, can we go in? They're like, no, lockout rule. You guys can't come in. It's after midnight. You know, the night's over. Well, as we're like walking away, someone screams, that's Lane Norton, you know, with the Aussie accent. And I'm like, what the hell? So, of course, the bouncer is like, Lane, I've seen all your stuff. I've been reading your articles for years, mate. Like, you've helped me immensely, right? And here we go, like famous Lane Norton, and it's awesome. And we're like, this is great. So Lane's going to get us in. So a few minutes go by. I think Lane takes a picture with the guy and walks away. And I go, I run over to Lane. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Lane, the doorman just asked for your freaking picture and autograph. Get us in. He's like, oh, yeah, I didn't even think anything of that. So he goes up to the guy. He says, hey, man, do you think you can get us in? You know, the guy's like, of course, got us right in. So, yeah, we ended up having a great time. Eric Helms did some dance battles on literally like head spins, and I can't even tell you how good of a dancer he is, because, you know, middle-aged white guy with a bunch of 20-year-olds, it just looked so funny because we did not fit the average age there, but Eric was crushing everyone in these little dance battles. You know, the freezes, and I don't even know what you call that stuff, but it was awesome to see. So, yeah.
You said head spinning?
Yes. He spun on his head. Like breakdancing stuff. Like legit. Like
yeah. I never knew that about Eric. That's funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's a couple things about Eric that not many people know that I've heard from him. And we've had him on the podcast a couple times. He's just such a great guy too. But he's really funny actually. So it's funny that kind of the dancing kind of does go with his personality when you think about it.
He was a professional rapper. Not kidding. Again, like he used to be a professional rapper, and he still raps. Like when we were in the karaoke, doing the karaoke that night, we did some like, he grabbed the mic and just rapped for like 10 minutes straight, and it was so good. Yeah, he's really talented. But yeah, that was Lane's inability to recognize, because he's socially awkward and basically just a giant nerd. The fact that like 6 of us wanted to, I don't even know, there was like a group of us. We wanted to go into a bar, and he totally didn't even recognize that the person that held the key to us getting in was a fan of his.
So, Paul, what does the future look like for you and Pro Physique? What do you have in the works? Like, let us in on what's the future to come for you. Are you planning on competing? Just give us the whole business, bodybuilding, fitness. What's in the future for Paul?
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm really excited about the future. So I'll start with my personal life. We are moving into a new house next week, about 10 days, right? And so what I've decided to do is I am building at my house a office, studio, gym, all-in-one catch-all for my business, because what I want to do is put out more content. I want to provide more content for more people. If you guys have been paying attention to my YouTube this year, I've hired a videographer to kind of follow me around at expos. And this is a client of mine, and he's really amazing. He does some fantastic stuff. And so my goal is, when I get this garage studio office built, is going to basically start putting out more content to reach more people, to help more people. Because as a coach, I can only work one-on-one with so many people. I have a very limited capacity. You know, I'm basically at capacity at all the time. The only time I'm taking on new clients is through attrition. You know, someone's done with me, I can take on a new client. But through the YouTube videos, through Instagram, you know, I'm basically going to start providing content. I've actually started providing a free training programs through my website. And so, like, my goal is just to reach more people. And this studio is really going to provide. I'm having it built as a gym. I'm not doing a podcast, but I plan to do, like, you know, I have a lot of friends in the fitness industry that I've mentioned. Well, when they come over, we can just do a video chat, right? And so I want to have a location for that. I'm going to have a location for doing posing with clients, along with an office. You know, I've just hired my first full-time coach. He works for me now. So people that want to work with me and I don't have any space, they now have an option. Like, I have a coach who works for me full-time. His name's Steven. So that's how, like, Pro Physique is going to grow. Me personally, there's not a lot of room left. I'm kind of at capacity, but I see how much I enjoy helping people, and I don't want it to stop there just because my client positions are kind of at their capacity. So that's my personal home gym office studio, is like something that just makes me smile every day, because I designed it, I'm building it myself. It's going to be fantastic. And then when it comes to me personally, like, as far as competing, so I've set a date to compete in the summer of 2018. The reason that's significant is that's going to be 10 years after the first show I ever did. So the first show I ever did was 2008, Mid-Florida Muscle Classic. I'm going to do the same show in 2018. I won the novice class. I'm going to come back and do open. I'm probably going to get stomped because I'm a drug-free bodybuilder and I'm 6'3" and lanky, but I'm still going to do open just because I think it'll be fun. You know, same venue, 10 years later, pictures will be fun to do. It'll just be a nice way to close that chapter. And then I'll probably end up doing some pro bodybuilding shows in the natural circuit, maybe do some men's physique stuff. You know, that division seems to suit me pretty well in the NPC. So, yeah, we'll see. And I'm going to do a lot more content when I'm shredded, because, you know, I see, like, Matt Ogus putting out videos when he's like 6% body fat. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? You know, like, so, you know, I'm going to take advantage of getting shredded and use it to continue to build my brand and build, you know, Pro Physique. And, yeah, those are like the two major things that I'm really excited about in the future.
Well, we wish you lots of luck here, Paul. Where can our listeners find out more about you if they're interested in watching some of these videos? Where can they come and follow you? Because our New York Muscle Radio family is strong.
Well, let me tell you, I have a very New York Italian last name. It's Revelia, Revelia. And the only people with that last name are my family members. So I'm very easy to find. My YouTube channel is Paul Revelia. My website is prophysique.com. My Instagram is Paul Revelia. You know, I'm really accessible. I'm often on Facebook. I try to answer every comment on every YouTube video I post.
All right, guys, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please make sure you share with all your friends, as this is how we're going to get out the good word of New York Muscle Radio, and along with Paul Revelia on this episode. Big guy, it's your turn.
All right, guys, Pete and Anthony with Paul Revelia, New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.